What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the MME YouTube channel, where we're here to guide, facilitate, and educate you on your holistic wellness journey. My name is Tyler Egan, and I will be your wellness mentor and educator for today's video. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing Spiritual Awakening 101, the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the positive and the negative. Because as you step into your spiritual sovereignty, as your soul comes online, if you will, there's so much fucking beauty in it all. There's so much positivity and joy and radiancy. And there's also some shittiness to it. There is some negativity to it all. And I want to put that in quotation. So I want to there's negativity to it all. In the moment, while you're in the thick of it, as your soul is coming online and you are awakening, as you're sifting through all of the egoic structures your mind has put up, right? As you're healing past traumas and reworking your stories and healing your mind, working on your body, getting some movement in, exercise, eating nourishing foods, as you're doing all this work, there is going to be some negativity to it all, right? In the moment, it may not be great. Long term, though, you'll see the light and positivity in it all. But in the moment, it's going to suck. And so I want to discuss both of these things. I want to discuss both aspects of this to help guide you through your spiritual awakening, to help those of you who, while you're in the darkness of it all, it's going to feel like shit. It's going to be negative at times. You may feel down or alone, right? So many of us can feel alone on this journey because we're out in the world. There's 8 billion people. You're out doing your thing at work with your family, your friends, and all these things. And these people just don't understand. You try to explain it. You try to make them understand. It's just in one ear, out the other. And it's just everybody around you doesn't get you. And you feel hella alone. And so through this video, we're here to guide you through this so that 1, you understand the process you're on, and 2, you don't feel so alone. And when I say understand the process, let me backtrack real fast. I just mean understand the light and the dark, both aspects of it, and honoring both of those aspects. And then again, guiding you through the aspects that may not feel as joyful. If you take anything from today's video, if you enjoy our content, we'd really appreciate it. If you could leave a like, comment, and please subscribe to the channel. You can click that notification bell and all the YouTube things. Now, let's get into this. So let's start with the good stuff, right? Let's start with the good stuff, and then I'll get to the darker stuff. We'll start with the light, and then we'll shift into the darker stuff, and I'll probably integrate the two throughout the process as well. So starting with the light, in the beginning, whether it's you hit your rock bottom, right? You hit a rock bottom of sorts, and you have this transcendental moment, or you have this spiritual, mystical moment, whether it's through plant medicines or breath work, or again, you just hit such a rock bottom that the only way truly is up, and you have this aha moment. No matter what your aha moment looks like, it's gonna come with that sense of liberation. You're gonna feel a sense of freedom from it all. Because no matter how you got there, whether it was through a breathwork practice or yoga or movement, exercise, whether it was from, again, hitting your rock bottom through plant medicines, you found a space of liberation, right? You saw a clearer truth. So it's going to bring forth some liberation, right? Whether it's mental clarity or it's physical releases in your body, your mind may feel more expansive because you can see things more clearly, whether you learn new information on the internet, reading, whatever it is, through a video like this. But your mind will start to expand to possibilities. Your mind will be more open to new realities and new potentials for you. Your intuition will start to come online, right? You'll start to be able to communicate with your body in a way that you may never have been able to before. I don't know if that makes sense. Your body will be able to sense things. Maybe it's through nutritional needs and you start to have cravings for things you didn't have before. Healthier foods. Maybe you have cravings for more movement, nourishment, and nourishment taking the form of movement, food, taking the form of better sleep, more sleep, right? Like when we hit these breakthrough moments, these aha moments, energetic releases, you are liberating so much energy that like your body doesn't know what to do with it. The neurological framework, the neurological hardware inside of your brain is not used to handling that capacity of energy. And so now your body has to adjust. So you may find yourself being more tired. You may find yourself wanting to sleep more. Honor that. This video again is about honoring all aspects of a spiritual awakening, because some of it really fucking blows and it's not easy to honor, and bringing that level of self-compassion and self-acceptance to the table is very helpful, and hopefully this is just a reminder for you. And honoring also the light of it all, like when your body needs more rest. We live in a culture of hustle and bustle and work harder and all this shit. Your body doesn't give a shit if you want to work your way up the corporate ladder. You know what I mean? There's a level of honoring that, and then also honoring the needs of your body. And the more your intuition comes online, the harder it's going to be to suppress your body's needs. This also will bring online your mind, right? When I talk about the expansiveness of it all. And now like you can hear maybe your passions and feel like you want to honor them more, or honor your own needs more. So maybe you feel like you hear your mind start to say things like, speak up for yourself in the relationship. Tell your boss this thing, right? Demand that you're paid your worth, or get what you are worthy of. So you start to hear this part of the mind come online too. And now it's like the body and mind are starting to find cohesiveness. And so the intuition just becomes so potent, so strong that you cannot bury anymore. Your needs are coming to the forefront, and you have to begin to honor those if you're not already, right? With the light, with all the beauty that a spiritual awakening brings, also comes a level of ownership, because you are stepping into your spiritual sovereignty. Right? You are owning your life. You are taking ownership over your life. And so now you have to honor that. And again, this is where the mind, the intuition, all of these aspects come online, these aspects coming online comes into play, because when you step into that role of your own sovereignty and you start to hear your own needs, you start to feel what your body needs, right? When you start to step into that, you hear all these things, you feel all of these things. Now you have to make the decision, and make no mistake about it, everyone. This is a decision. It is your decision. We have free will. You can make the decision to own your life and live your life on fucking purpose. No longer living from unconscious patterns of childhood traumatic patterns, emotional traumatic patterns, generational trauma patterns of just bending over to everybody's will, giving into the man, playing it safe because of X, Y, Z, right? You're taking ownership now, and that does come in seasons and steps. I'm not saying quit your job and do all these drastic things tomorrow. That's kind of what I did. We could talk about that later. There's a lot to be learned from it. A lot of mistakes happened. So you have the choice to take complete ownership over your life and live your life on purpose and live your life in alignment with your purpose, but you have to take ownership, and that is absolutely a choice, right? You'll have micro decisions day to day, week to week, hour to hour even, where you get to decide what life you want to live, right? Do you want to start nourishing your body through movement, exercise, quality food, better sleep, more sleep? Or do you want to go back to your patterns of self-sabotage, of foregoing, suppressing your needs to fill the needs of others, to get external validation for love? When you know in your heart you are that love and you can supply that for yourself, right? You have the choice now. The more liberated you feel, the more expanded your mind becomes, the more your intuition comes online, the more ownership you can take in your life. The more ownership you take in your life, the more that you actually become a creator of the reality you live in. And I don't mean that you can like literally recreate our society. You know, we all probably have to do it together over a period of time and all these things, right? I mean that like through the lens of your mindset, through the lens of your soul and the purpose that you are here to fulfill, You can create the reality you want to live in, but it starts with taking ownership. And it starts with those micro decisions, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, and ultimately they accumulate over time. They compound over time. And you start, I was mentioning that neurological framework earlier, right? Like the neurological framework within your own mind starts to the synaptic connections prune apart and reform into new ones, ultimately creating your reality, creating an individual who is completely different than they used to be. Right, so this is the light in it all. This is the joy, right? You cultivate a level of spiritual sovereignty. You create discernment. As they say in Buddhism, it's prajna, is wisdom, right? You create discernment. It creates a level of wisdom. It's innate. You are getting direct wisdom from source energy. Like your mind is being filled with all this information. You're just like, where the fuck did that just come from? Whether it's insights, next steps, whether it's like literal information that makes sense to you now, it just aligns with your soul, aligns with your being. It feels right in your heart, right? So there's a lot of light in that. But even everything I just said right there, there's a double-edged sword to that, right? It's like, if you know Star Wars, like it's Darth Maul, right? One of the Sith Lords. He has that double-edged lightsaber, so cool. Right? The Force itself has the good and the light, the good and the dark, the Jedi and the Sith, right? Our spiritual awakening brings that too, because it can begin with a rock bottom. It can begin with a very dark situation, a lot of suffering, sickness, illness, right? As they call it in Buddhism, the dukkha, right? Translates to suffering. It very well may start there for you. It certainly did for me. I'm laughing at that now, but I was not laughing 8 years ago when I started this journey. It fucking sucked. So it may start with suffering for you. And I'm just gonna like pause for a moment, take a deep breath in. I wanna invite you to do that with me and just honor that. No matter where you're at in your journey, I can still feel into the pain and suffering I was going through. I'm getting the chills thinking about it right now. 8 years ago when I started this journey, and it sucked. So I'm gonna take a moment, take like 3 deep breaths, and I'm gonna honor that part of myself. And to my editor, who is also me, leave that in there. So to kind of come back to what I was saying though, with our spiritual awakening, with the darkness that comes with it, with that dark night of the soul that so many different traditions talk about, comes a lot of the negativity, a lot of what the ego, what the mind will interpret as bad. And rightfully so. Our personalities are not going to like it. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to suck. No matter if you're 23, 27, 34, or 48, maybe you're in your 60s. Like it doesn't matter what age you're at. Your brain has been, okay, if you're like 23, maybe not so much, but if your brain has developed enough that your neurological hardware is rather solidified, your habitual patterns are so ingrained into the fabric of your brain that it is going to be a challenge to break these patterns and habits. I am not here to sugarcoat that for you. It will suck, right? It will be uncomfortable. It will feel like death, and that's because it is a death on a certain level. I don't mean that you are going to physically die, but the experience will very much feel like that. This is what people refer to as ego deaths, right? You start to shed these egoic patterns. You start to shed these stories, these trauma wounds, these emotional wounds, these generational wounds. You start to shed them. I was having a conversation with a friend, and this is cool, it's all coming full circle. She kept telling me about how snakes were showing up in her meditations and on plant medicine journeys she did. And I thought it was interesting because apparently the snake shedding its skin is a representation of transformation. And that makes so much sense because that is very much what happens on our spiritual awakening journey. There will bring a lot of confusing on this path. Again, this is to circle back to the ownership. Like this is very much a choice, and every day you're going to be confronted with these forks in the road. And I still hear my own mind, my own ego go like, my God, I should be here already. I've been doing all of this work. Why is God doing this to me? That was like the question I had all the time. And there was something deeply rooted within that, which I guess I could talk about later too. But upon your spiritual awakening will bring a lot of confusion. It will be so confusing because, or let me rephrase, it will feel very confusing because your brain is so wired to see the world through a specific lens. And your mind is expanding. Your body's feeling liberated. You can no longer go back to that paradigm, the paradigm of victimhood, right? The paradigm where you have no say in your life. You can't go back there anymore. Your mind, your frequency is elevated so much that you are forced, in a way, it may feel like this. It'll feel like you are forced to face the confusion or go back to suffering and sickness, unconscious suffering and sickness. You'll be faced with that decision and you'll have to make it every day, and it becomes a habit and a pattern. And then healing daily, hourly, minutely, if that's a word, becomes a habit in and of itself. And it's so normal for you that when you feel that friction where the ego is coming up against itself and it's coming up against those patterns, it's feeling super confusing. For me personally, when that happens, I get enraged, I get angry because I feel a sense of I'm losing control. And a part of me is, and that's where the ego is shedding. It's a part of my ego is dying. And it feels so confusing. We have to sink into that and become familiar with that discomfort, that confusion, the destruction of the old neurological hardware, the pruning of the synaptic connections that were who we were. Forge that energy in the fire. Sit in the fire with those old thought patterns, those old emotional patterns, those old energetic patterns, and forge who we truly are. You're gonna find yourself feeling misunderstood. People will not understand the path you're on. Generally speaking, you will find people along the way who get it, who see you for who you are. You absolutely will, but the people around you may not understand you. And that is by design. The universe wants us to come back to source as we shed these egoic patterns, as we shed these mental structures that we've created, these mental frameworks. Source is bringing us back. Source is bringing us back to us, to ourselves. And so you will feel misunderstood. That is by design. That is intentional by source energy so that we come back home. And sometimes we may find that through specific avenues, whether it's plant medicines, breath work, again, movement, exercise. Exercise has been a really big thing for me. You'll start to notice patterns of projection. Hear me out for a minute, because that's gonna start with you noticing people projecting onto you. Right? They're gonna project their emotions, their ideals, their energy onto you. You'll feel it, you can't escape it, right? If you're watching this, you're probably an empath of some sort. You feel energy so fucking deeply, right? And so you'll feel people projecting their energy, their emotions, their mental frameworks of the world onto you. Again, by design, because now we can start to form new habits and patterns to protect our own energy field, right? But again, there comes a level of darkness to this. You're gonna feel people's projections. And then this moves to the next part I wanted to hit on with projection, and that is you'll notice yourself start to project onto the world. You'll notice yourself projecting your ideals for yourself, your guiding principles, your values onto people. This is very predominant in very close relationships, and whether it's family, partners, friendships, work relationships, you will notice yourself projecting onto these people. Again, I'm gonna take a deep breath in, and I'm gonna honor this part of myself, because I am not saying this from a space of like better than y'all because I know this stuff. No. I see myself as I'm saying all this, and I'm gonna take a deep breath in and release it and honor myself, because I very much went through this. And I still hear my mental patterns projecting on the people, and I just observe it now like it's a passing thought. A cloud in the sky, a raindrop falling down on a rainy day, right? So we'll notice projection coming in and going out. It might start coming in and then you'll notice it going out, and then you just start to observe it all unfolding. It's just weather, it changes every single day, right? To come back to one of the parts of the light that has that double-edged sword to it. Ownership. You have to own your thoughts. They are your thought patterns. That is the energy flowing throughout your brain. Whether it was a subconscious program from childhood, because it's a very real thing. It is a very valid understanding of what is happening in here, right? Thought patterns that come from parental way of thinking, come from societal conditioning, school and education, wherever they come from, they're still in your mind. It may not be, okay, let me rephrase everything. It may not be your fault they're in here, but it's your responsibility to take ownership of what you do from here on out. You can start to become aware of these thought patterns and hold space for them. But you to take ownership over them. No longer blaming other people. No longer blaming yourself. I spent years when I was trying to get out of the victimhood mindset, instead of blaming everybody else, I blamed myself for everything. And then I found this harmony between recognizing that, like, okay, it's not my fault that I'm this way, but it is my responsibility to do something about it. I don't want to live my life in the generational victimhood patterns of my family. I straight up refuse to do that. And that also comes with not only not blaming the outside world, but no longer blaming myself and getting mad at myself and shaming myself, right? So ownership has a double-edged sword to it. It's beautiful because it brings so much power back to you. And you'll be faced with the decisions that you've made, the thoughts that run through your mind, the emotions you've been running from. And you have to own that. And it might come in bite-sized pieces, it might come all at once. To come back to another point that has a double-edged sword to it, the creator aspect. This actually goes with ownership, right? Being a creator of our reality is a beautiful, magnificent, empowering thing. Like, I feel so powerful and I feel so empowered knowing that I have a say in my life. But with that, again, comes recognition of the mistakes we made, not to shame them, but to recognize that we didn't know what we didn't know. Honor that part of ourselves. Honor that wounded inner child and integrate that part of ourselves. Integrate that part of the ego. The ego is not the enemy. As we have these ego deaths, it's not literal death to our ego. Our egos are a very vital part of the human experience. And it's not about killing the ego. It's about healing the wounds of our personalities, of our egos, within our minds, and integrating those into the fabric of our being, right? But ownership, being a creator and choosing those two things has a level of darkness to it because you will be faced with some of the decisions that you've made, some of the emotions you've been running from, and finding that space of self-acceptance and self-compassion for that wounded part of you who made the mistake and loving that part of yourself anyway brings forth some darkness inside because it's not always quote unquote easy. We have been conditioned to abandon ourselves for the needs of others. And so cultivating that self-compassion and self-love will bring forth some of the darkness. Choosing ownership and choosing to be creator of your life will bring forth some darkness. And while it sucks, there's so much beauty in it. While it sucks at times, there's so much beauty in it. And the last thing I want to hit on when it comes to the darkness is it really goes hand in hand with the ownership and the creator thing I was just hitting on, and that is the duality in it all, right? It's like the symbol of the yin and yang in Chinese medicine. You can't have light without dark. You can't have good without evil, right? There's the masculine and feminine. I don't mean male, female. I mean masculine and feminine energies. There is harmony within the cycles of the day, the seasons of the year. There's a cyclical nature, I think I said that right, cyclical nature to nature itself. There is a duality in it all. And finding the harmony between both those to ride those cycles brings forth some darkness because it's not always going to be light, sunshine, and rainbows. Spirituality is not about that. It's about finding harmony with the human experience and accepting all of your humanness, integrating the ego into the fabric of your being, not shunning it, not pushing it down, not suppressing it. I hear that little boy inside crying out for love so much. Okay, maybe not so much because that really sounds so bad when I say it like that. I hear him all the time and I hold space through meditations, right? Sometimes I channel that energy into rage where I feel more control and then I go work out or move some heavy weights or do something that's like, you know? I do some somatic movement practices that really get me into my body and feel the depth of that energy. There's so many avenues to explore, which topics for different videos. But spiritual awakening brings both the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the positivity and the negative, the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, right? The soul, the spirit, the divinity within it all, and the humanness with all of our big emotions and tragedies and we stubbed a toe and the world's ending type of shit. So put that all out of the way, y'all. I'm gonna wrap this video up. If you actually would like to hear more about my own personal spiritual awakening journey, there is some of it on my personal YouTube channel, but I would be more than happy to share it here. Drop a comment down below if you want to see me make a video on that. But I hope this video has helped you awaken your soul and find your life's purpose. If you took anything from this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Namaste.